Hello and welcome back to another Demis Hellen tutorial. We are talking arpeggios and I'm going to be showing you today how to make a very simple but very effective arpeggiated sequence, and then just a few things that I do think about when I'm building a certain sequence. Many of you will know by now that I create that first sequence and then I will duplicate it and create alternative sequences if I don't like the original idea, and it just gives you that progression of ideas. Some DAWs already have this built in, so you can overlay and automatically it'll just create different versions, and we do have track versions in Cubase, but I prefer just to copy it left to right instead of up and down. And we're going to start by clicking two notes here. So straight off, we're not starting on the first line of the bar, we're going to start on the second beat and the third beat. Then we're going to skip and create another two notes. So now we've got two groups of two, and we're going to continue this pattern, but we're going to create a variation here. So we're going to create one note, so we're leaving the same gap, and then we're going to create another gap and put another note in there. So now we have two groups of two and two singular. That's the easiest way to look at that. Then we're going to do the same again and just recreate that same pattern. So a gap, one note, gap, one note, gap, two notes, one note, and then we'll leave that at the end like it's going to be another two note, but then it wraps it back around, and we can change this up after. And for you avid followers of the channel, if you already knew what I'm going to say next, let me know down in the comments. We're going to drag this down and we're going to start filling in the gaps. So we're just duplicating the notes and filling them in. And because we have a repeating pattern, we can actually just create the first part and then copy them over, and it will automatically just fill these gaps in. I'm going to drag that last one over. So now if we actually mimic the same, so I'm going to hit shift and down on Cubase to shift it an octave, and then just put it on A as well, so we're using the same notes. So now we have this. So now we have a looped arpeggio, every single note in 16ths used, and it just goes around seamlessly. And that's what we want. So now we're going to start with the chords. We're going to start with a simple A chord, and if we do that, that would be A, C, E. If we turn that up an octave. And we're just going to use two notes for this. So we're just going to use the first note in the sequence, so that would be C. And we're going to do this on per bar basis. And every second note there is going to be C. And now we start to peel out a bit of a groove. So let's continue this, and we're going to have this note at the top, so we have a repetition of that final note, and then we can have these going the opposite way, for example, and this one going the first way that we had, so we have polar opposites but the same notes. And then we have that repeat again, and then here I think what we're going to do is have a bit of a roll down, so we'll have a listen to how it sounds. And that's our first bar sorted. So we're going to continue these steps, and we're going to have a repetition like this. So I'm just picking these at random. I'm just hearing it, thinking this is probably going to be the way forward for this particular track. I have that there. And then what we're going to do is have a little bit of a variation, and we're going to have that variation visible in the duplicate version that we're going to look at in a minute. So now we have this. That's because we have this singular note on its own without the ramp up. So we have two notes at the start of that one, but then we have one note and a gap and then a note. So it's okay for now. We do have an arpeggiated sequence, and we can now start moving the bass back and forth. We can actually have these in arpeggios going from octave to octave. So we can have one at this level and one at that level. It does creep into the melody in this instance, but if we was to pick a different bass starting point, then we could have maybe some of these hitting octaves. For example, like that. And that just starts to add a little bit of variation. But we're going to keep this simple and just keep that to A for now on one single note. So let's make a duplicate and we'll start editing the duplicate one. Now we want to make this a little bit more interesting. So on the keyboard, we are in the key of A. So we've got A and C to start with. And I'm going to keep C active throughout the melody and we're going to move the A around. So we're going to have the A go up to a B and then down to a G. And the reason for this is a simple way of creating question, answer, resolution in your melody. So you have your starting point, question, answer, resolution. Now you can do this between multiple instruments. You'll have heard this before. We can use different instruments to call and answer each other, question and answer, and you can use it in lyrics as well. It depends on what you're trying to create, but in an arpeggio I create the same thing, that first kind of initial feel, then the question, answer, resolution. So we have a full story in that very short space of time, and that's something that you've got to think about. How are you going to manipulate the scale that you are using to create that? And keeping that C at the top helps to keep a stabilized position on that melody as well. Okay, so now we're on the second variation. Let's start to incorporate those chords. So I'm going to start by using half bars here for now. So let's just see how that works. I'm going to take that up to B, like I said. And straight away, to me, that sounds like that just needs to resolve, go into that question and back into resolve. So I'm going to put this on the G. So now we've got the A, the B, which is the question, G, the answer, and then when the melody starts again on this bass, resolution. So each start is the resolution section. So let's have a listen to that. You can hear this one has a lot more depth and it has a lot more to carry forward in a track. And what we're going to do is we're going to change this up. So we're going to still follow the same pattern. We're going to have these two notes go to B and we're going to have this one as a G, but I'm going to bring that to there. So now that we have two bass notes together for the first time only, where they'll kind of roll into each other. And I think that'll help give it a little bit more character. And I'm going to go as far as saying, let's get rid of the bass note, have the B and then a G there. And as you can see, we've created now a 2-bar loop that has two varied endings to it. Two various different starting patterns. Even though the pattern is repeating, the starting points are slightly different. So like we have two notes together here, but on the first part of this bar, we have two notes that are separated. So there is a slight difference there, but we've made it even more obvious by giving that, and that just keeps the flow going. Let's incorporate these to actually change a little bit so we can create this into a little bit more of a complex arpeggio. We could add in the full chord, for example, so we could have the E in there. And what we can do is build a chord, and we can start stealing the bass notes out of here and creating a bit more of a pattern. And it starts to add a little bit more character into it. So all we've done is move two notes, and straight away we've got a bit of a more robust sound. Let's try some octaves at this point. So I'm going to throw this up to an E 1 octave higher than I would do. And let's put B 1 octave higher there. And let's have that join back in with the E possibly, or maybe a C. So we can see now that we're just starting to spread things out. We're adding the extra noting because that completes the A chord, A, C, and E. And all I'm doing is experimenting with the current positions that we have and just bringing out these bass notes as well. So let's have this one hit an E, so very similar to this section but slightly different position. And then we'll have an A, an octave above, and we'll steal this bass note and create that into a C. And then this bit now sounds too linear and too basic, whereas it added character to the original style. These two now take the limelight, and this doesn't sound as effective. So let's drag this up to an octave above, and we're going to throw in the G at this point, and then let's put the C as a resolve, and then it will drop back down to the A at the start. Let's see what that sounds like. Too obviously repeating there. Let's try a B. We'll keep it as that. So now we have a little bit more of an arpeggiated sequence that starts to now differ away from that original pattern, but still following the same notes. And you can see we've kept some regular bass notes in there as well. If we take away the rolling bass, and if we replace that, I'm just going to use this old demo that we had here. Let's just drag that away, and let's utilize this progressive 2 bass. Don't know which bass this is till we hear it. So we're starting to add some depth into the sound. Now you can see how these things are going to start gelling together. And that brings us to the end of the video. So if you enjoyed the video, please let me know down in the comments, hit the like button, and also hit the subscribe and the bell icon so you see when I upload. And in the meantime, carry on learning, check out some of my other videos if you haven't already, and thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.